Hello there and welcome to a brand new day in the studio. So today, yet again, we have another blank canvas, and you know what? I really enjoy waking up in the morning and seeing a blank canvas. It's pretty much just the thought of endless possibilities that we can have with this empty canvas. So let's go ahead and list out the colors that I'll be using for today. So we have titanium white, flake white, burnt umber, alizarin permanent. Well, that is, let's see here, that is Alizarin Crimson Permanent. This is the Winsor and Newton version of it. Before I was using the Gamblin, so I'll be trying out the Winsor and Newton. But anyway, we have cadmium red medium, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow deep. This is a Grumbacher color, so it's a little bit of a different yellow I decided to try out for today. And this is cadmium green, a Gamblin color, and I found that recently I kind of like using cadmium green and the lighter flesh tones, and today we're going to talk a lot about flesh tones. Sap green, ultramarine blue, ivory black. All of these colors are artist grade, and basically the brands are just Grumbacher, Winsor & Newton, and Gamblin. Everything is Winsor & Newton, but this one right here is a Grumbacher. I really like Grumbacher's cadmiums. So for my medium today, let's move you down here. So for my medium today, I will be using Neo McGilt Medium. So that is just Neo McGilt Medium. It is a fast dryer. So I'm going to just add a little bit of Neo McGilt Medium to the brush. And this is a size 8 flat bristle brush. Now, as you may have noticed already, I'm speaking to you while I'm painting at the same time. The last couple days you weren't able to hear this. So like the mark on the canvas. And you know, I like to work I like to switch different methods, like working in voiceover style versus working live. I guess this is called live, so when you're painting and talking at the same time, not to be confused with live stream. But anyway, just so you know, I'm painting and talking to you at the same time, and I kind of enjoy that process. And so what we're going to start off with is actually the let's use our flake white. So flake white and cadmium red. Just to give you an idea of the difference between the two whites, I'm going to go ahead and just drop the light sensitivity. There you go. Now you can see. So let's go ahead and put in a little bit of titanium white just so you can see the difference. And see that just with a little bit of titanium white, we are already able to raise the value exponentially. So let's just combine them all together now, just to get that out the way. Why you're wondering that I have two whites on the palette. One raises the value with only a little bit of paint, the other takes much more paint to raise the value. And the reason I want that is going to be in the middle tones, and you'll see when we get there. So a little bit of alizarin, so alizarin Crimson Permanent. And now, here's the fun part. We're going to mix in a little bit of the cadmium green. See how it just kind of tints it a little bit cooler? I find that to be a really interesting thing to add into the flesh tones that I wouldn't have tried until recently. I just thought might as well try it out, and it's really interesting. So again, we're starting off with a very simple combination of flesh tones, and as promised, hopefully, in the title of this video, we're going to focus on mixing flesh tones. In particular, we're going to have a very brave and very direct approach to creating this painting. You know me by now. You know that I like to explore different techniques. I don't like to do things the same way all the time, every time. You know that about me. So a little bit more cadmium red medium, and here's why I have flake white, okay? So in the middle tone region of the palette, I'm able to put in the flake white, and notice how it changes, how it alters the value. So it's much lighter, but not as light as if I were to put titanium white, and it helps to add a very nice body to the paint. And again, I am speaking to you live. I guess that's the way that it's called. I'm speaking to you as I'm painting, so any kind of background noise I will not be able to edit out, so I apologize in advance for any kind of background noise. That being said, now we're going into the darker flesh tones. So in the darker flesh tones, we're using a little bit of our ultramarine blue and ivory black. And as you're observing the photo reference on the top left corner of your screen, let's just go ahead and make that picture larger now. So this is an image of Paulden Hamilton. I made a video about him, or featuring him, I don't even know, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago now. He was and is my art teacher. I've learned so much from him. So, all right, so you're going to maintain that image right there to the top left corner of your screen, and you're going to have that there so you can refer to it as I develop the painting. So now that we have this very simple kind of architecture for the flesh tones, I'm going to consider this my charging palette. So this is a charging palette, my charging brush, so I can charge the palette. So I'm going to put that brush aside. I'm going to get another brush, clean bristle brush. So this is another, let's see what this is. This is a size 8 bristle brush, and I'm just going to get something from the flesh tone and just that. So notice how I'm going to need a lot more paint. So now that I introduced the mixtures to you, we're going to go ahead and do it much faster. So in the beginning, I really wanted to guide you through all of those mixtures, but now I'm going to be mixing much faster. So we're going to start off with something that's kind of warm. So a little bit of the flake white. Let's use a little more titanium white. There we go. And I just want to cover. I want to have a ground to build. And so I'm going to be building this portrait with a lot of freedom. And again, I don't want to try to nail the flesh tones right away. I don't want to get the right flesh tone right away, even though I might have just done that. I really want it to be a building process. And this right here is just kind of getting an idea. We're just getting an idea of the real estate of where the portrait is going to fit. And this is going to be a very, I'm going to try to keep this as natural as possible. You know, like natural in terms of me, how I actually paint. So let's go ahead and move this shape up here. And I'm just trying to get an idea of where everything is going to fit. And now, you know, the next thing I'm going to do is make a decision. I'm either going to start to indicate the structures for the eye sockets, or I might go into the darks of the hair. And you know what? Now that I introduced the flesh tones to you, you have a basic idea of how I'm going to be handling the flesh tones. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of burnt umber, and you're going to want a fairly neutral, earthy color for what I'm about to do. So notice that is our first brush stroke within the structure of the portrait. And so basically what this is going to do is going to facilitate drawing. So I'm going to be using simple, just simple shapes, simple masses of color just to construct. And we're going to be having a fearless start. So let's go ahead and make this even more fearless. So we're just throwing our shapes in there, and we're drawing with the color. You know me by now. You know that I don't like to start portraits the same way all the time, every time. So again, this is going to be one way to start. It doesn't have to be the way you start all the time, but we're just getting an idea of the real estate, how much of the canvas we're going to take up. And just using simple straight lines and angles. So tell you what, one thing that you'll hear often from people is that when you're painting someone that you know, it can be very, very difficult to do that. And that certainly is the case for this painting, definitely for me, because, you know, Paulden is my teacher, and I don't want to do him, I don't want to do poorly on his portrait. So there is a little bit of a fear factor involved in the start of this. And that's why I think it's important to just be fearless. Have a brave and fearless start. And that's what we're doing. We're setting up our real estate. We're setting up our working space. We're laying down the foundation for where we're going to spend all of our time. I'm going to just add a little bit of odorless mineral spirits to the brush. That is Mona Lisa brand odorless mineral spirits. And I'm trying to list out with much more specificity what colors and what materials I use. But you know, if you're new to this channel and you really want to know exactly what materials I'm using, you can always go ahead and go down to the description box of this video, and hopefully I have all of that information typed up with much more specificity for you. So a little bit of alizarin permanent, and we're going to be adding in a little bit of a warmer tone into here, which is kind of useless at this point, but I just felt like putting in something warmer there. And so we're just using simple shape, and we're constructing this in a very easy and simple kind of way, just looking from the inside out, just thinking of how much of the canvas I want each one of these shapes to take. And now I'll tell you what, likeness is a fear of mine at this stage, and I'm being real with you. Likeness is a fear for me right now because you know who I'm painting. So I'm trying to do justice. I'm trying to do my teacher justice, okay? But again, it's all about being fearless. It's all about, you know, not being timid in the beginning and just getting your marks out there. Just getting the start over with, okay? And it's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun to do this, to work in this kind of way. So now we just mixed up a whole bunch of different colors. So we mixed up, now this is a different brush. This is gonna be our shadow brush. All right, so now we're gonna put in a little bit of a halftone here, and we're basically gonna stick to the kind of green, burnt umber type of family. And I'm just going to think about where I want to spend my time for this sitting of this portrait. And I'm thinking I'm going to spend a lot of time here on the structures for the face. So I better cover very rapidly, and I better know what I'm after. So a very dark shape there, and we're using, tell you what, we're not trying to get the final color, but we're trying to draw with color a little bit here. But I think that I'm going to split this video up into a segment or two, and the next segment is going to be how to make more specific shapes. This is going to be basic shapes and just using simple flesh tone combinations. So just at a glance, I'm not trying to copy the information that I'm looking at, though that is very tempting right now. I'm just trying to observe just these simple masses of light and dark. And unintentionally, I just put in a little bit of a halftone there. That's not necessary. It's kind of useless at this stage. So a little bit of ultramarine blue. So now we're going to go back and forth between the flesh tone brush and that little drawing brush. And tell you what, so the more I create these paintings, so the more and more that I paint these portraits, the more and more I start to realize the useful from the useless. So in essence, it is actually very useful to, you know, like I've had some requests to paint portraits like the Dutch masters or things like that, which thank you for the suggestions. Thank you for the suggestions. That's certainly an idea for the future, for a future topic, but you know, a lot about this is the experience. A lot about this is the, you know, what it feels like to add more titanium white into this little area for the forehead and start to see how these values subtly gradate. But the thing is, I think that it's kind of defeating, to me personally, kind of defeating in a way to have the outlines perfectly mapped out. Because at that point, if, you know, this is just how I feel at the current moment, this may change in the future. Let me know if you feel the same. It's kind of defeating when you have all of the outlines already mapped out and then all you're doing is coloring in. And so, I mean, that's fine. You know, I've done that before in the past. You know me. But it's just not really that much fun. I think that this is much more fun, at least for me these days. So again, just watch my brush strokes. So just, we're going to be using a little bit of the Grumbacher Cadmium Yellow Deep in the light areas of the portrait. And tell you what, that photograph was not taken that well. So I know that there would be some lighter elements, some lighter, warmer elements in the flesh tones, in particular in the lighter regions of the flesh tones, like right around here. So if you're new to painting and you want to learn about the concepts of planes, I mean, that's it for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 basic planes that are being constructed right there. So a little bit of alizarin, permanent, and let's see here. Let's go ahead and start to add a little bit more warmth into the corner. And so the thing is, you really don't want to finish the outlines too early on. And I'm speaking to you mainly from, not really from a practical standpoint, but I'm speaking to you from the perspective of a painter. You know, just enjoying, you know, mixing sap green into this little element just to add a cooler shape. You know, just putting in this plane change here, and this plane, by the way, is a shape for the orbicularis oris. And, you know, it may look very, very frightening to look at an unfinished face. In fact, it is quite frightening. You see it in a lot of horror movies, you know, like Ghost. You see a ghost, and that ghost usually is just a face without any features. You know, we're very feature-oriented people. We see images of people every single day, and we really don't, I really don't think that the human mind is that adapt to seeing structure, to seeing, you know, what we're looking at is just a mask of the face. The human mind just doesn't like this, and I'm speaking to you from my own perspective, not from anyone else's. You know, it may be different for you. Maybe for you it's okay to see an unfinished face, but for me, you know, this is what I call the awkward stage in a painting. Using a little bit of ultramarine blue in this area here, I just want to add a little bit of a cooler tint. So to me, this is the awkward stage of the painting, because to me, it disturbs me to see the face without any kind of, you know, refinement. And that's part of painting portraits. It's okay to be a little bit frightened at the start of a portrait, and just know that, you know, it's all about basically the visual dialogue. I think it's really more important to look at the poetic aspects of painting. At least more recently, you know, I've made a video a couple of days ago. I think it was the video from 2 days ago, titled Beyond Technique. And in that video, I think that I really did try to emphasize the kind of things that I'm doing right now. So we're just putting a little subtle value change into here. And this is how we're basically constructing the large shapes within the portrait. You know, we're working from the inside out. So let's go ahead and get the shadow brush. And just a little tip, I've had some questions on brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and address as much as I know about brushes while I'm putting in these shapes here. So this is just a darker shape now for the concavity of the eye socket, and we're working from the inside out, so we're giving ourselves much more room, you know, to sculpt and to basically, it's like herding sheep. We're going to be not hurting, but herding sheep. We're going to be, you know, moving the paint around. It's going to be very free, very flexible, but in any case, so okay, so for brushes, I'm using bristle brushes, strictly bristle brushes, for the start of this painting. And, you know, it's just something that I've been picking up recently, you know, just from experience, trying to share these experiences with you, okay? So bristle brushes, you know, such as this one here, doesn't matter if it's a flat or a filbert, I don't care. The thing is that bristle brushes can pick up a lot of paint. They can shovel the paint around, essentially, and that's what you want when you're working in this style. Now, if I were to do a very careful, you know, under sketch, or being very careful trying to map out outlines, then I would go for something like, let's see, it's actually in my hand right now. I would go for a synthetic brush. So a synthetic brush won't pick up as much paint, and it can make much more of like a watercolor type shape when you know, put down the brush stroke. And right now we're not worried about the likeness. Right now we're just focusing on the large underlying structures. So if you're a beginner to painting, I really recommend you spend a lot of time both painting and drawing. I don't know if it's the best advice to give at the moment, but, you know, I think it's a good idea to both draw and paint. Now, traditionally, you want to hold back on painting for a long time until your drawing is super strong, until you're very strong with your drawing. But tell you what, paint handling is kind of a thing. So the way that paint handles, on top of course, the flesh tones, knowing how to use your medium and how much medium to use. So for instance, for the hair right now, I'm not using any medium, but now I'm realizing I want it to be thinner, so just a little bit of Neo McGilt medium, just Neo McGilt on the brush, and look at this. Look how it just moves very freely. So again, we're working from the inside out. And what's most important for me right now is the shape of the head. Now the head is too big. I need to move the shoulder out a little bit. And, you know, I'm making these measurements just optically. You know, lately I haven't really been measuring much. And let's just go ahead and throw in some ivory black and some burnt umber and a little bit of Neo McGilt medium into this area right over here. But, you know, recently I've been kind of staying away from measuring, and it's not because I want to be less specific. It's just that I think that it's more fun for me these days just to not worry too much about specific finite measuring. Now I'm observing my angles very optically. So right now, let's see if I can use a clean bristle brush and just shovel the paint down here. I may put in the background color, I may not, but just gonna push that shape down, and it's all right. You know, the thing about paint is it's very slow drying. So oil paint, that is, sorry. Oil paint is very slow drying. So that aspect of it is very contrary to, you know, like acrylic or watercolor. I've only done, I think, one acrylic video. I know I've had many requests to do more acrylics than I want to, but you know, you gotta give me time to learn it. I have to learn it before I try to make a video on it. And I don't know, let me know if you want me to make a video on acrylics, even though I'm not really an expert. I would consider myself kind of an expert with oil painting at this point, but you know, there's so much more for me to learn. In any case, now let's just go ahead and look at the, let's talk about flesh tones a little bit more. So burnt umber, sap green. Burnt umber, sap green into this region of the palette. And by region, I mean this area of the palette with a relative value. Notice how I keep these this kind of value web on my palette that allows me to kind of know where I am in terms of relative value families. And for me, this is essential. I would feel lost without this. So now I'm going to return to that shadow brush, and you know, that's probably not a good idea anymore to use that brush. So I'm going to switch to another larger brush. This is another size 6 bristle. This is a bright, it says. I don't think the camera can focus right now, but anyway, it's a bright brush, but you know, it looks just like a flat, and I don't care, to be honest, if it's a bristle or if it's a flat. It doesn't matter to me. These brushes were on sale. You know me. That's why I have this brush. It was on sale. And I got really, really good deals on these bristle brushes. I'm really sad though. They're starting to fall apart. But in any case, notice how we're just putting in now a darker little chop here for the shadow. And I'm just going to unify the shadow all the way up to here. And this is the zygomatic region of the portrait. Zygomatic region. Cheekbone, that is. So now we're going to go ahead and just put in with the dark brush, little angle there for the mandible. And now talk about paint handling. Okay, so paint, it is very forgiving, but I think it's important to just get all of your shapes covered very quickly. The faster the better. Just to, you know, have something down to relate. Now switching to, let's see, this shadow brush again. I'll put in just a little mark, just a little accent. So let's talk about accent marks now. And since we are trying to focus a little bit more into the flesh tones, it's important to know where your accents need to be. And the key word is, you know, need to be. And it doesn't have to be in any particular spot. So here and here, just, you know, by eye, just guesstimating where this shape is going to fit. And these are accents, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 accents. And they're basically just guiding me towards where the final structures could be. But since oil paint is so forgiving, and it takes a while to dry, especially if you're using a slow dryer, which I'm not. I'm using a fast dryer, but, you know, we'll be fine. It's just very forgiving in the fact that you're able to, you know, reason with the shapes. And oil paint lends itself to a very shape and mass-oriented approach. This is a mass right here. Oil paint lends itself to this type of paint handling. And I think that it's important to understand how oil paint handles, both in Alla Prima, which is wet on wet, and in layering. And, you know, in this channel, we've done a lot of the layering, and we've done a lot of the Alla Prima. Nothing new here. The only thing that is new, however, is the fact that we're, you know, moving very quickly, and we're just exploring these flesh tone combinations. So how about this? So cadmium yellow deep plus titanium white plus a tiny bit of alizarin crimson permanent, and boom, look at that color. It's a really nice flesh tone. And we're thinking about the large underlying shapes surrounding all of these structures. And even still at this point, I'm not terribly worried about likeness. Let the likeness come to you. Let the likeness sneak up to you. Enjoy the painting experience. Don't dwell on the likeness. Be brave. Always keep a brave brush. So again, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start to put in a shape for the chin. So I'm thinking probably right here, because I'm seeing a lot more light. And, you know, try to squint. Stand back and squint, because squinting actually just helped me to see how much or how little I need to put in that region of the face. So now I'm really trying to look at the mask of the face. You know, and I said accent marks because these marks are going to be taken, they're going to be put in, they're going to be taken out in a very kind of rapid way. So keep your shape simple and easy. And please let me know if at this point you can finish this sentence. Keep your shape simple and easy. Can you finish my sentence? Keep your shape simple and easy so that when the time comes to make changes, those changes will be simple and easy to manage. And we used a little bit of green and ultramarine blue into the middle tone region of the palette to start to gesture in where the mustache may or may not fit. And right now it's going to start to look really goofy. I will tell you, not the model of course, but the painting, so don't get me wrong. So the painting will look goofy when you start to introduce new elements. And every element of a portrait usually has a little bit of an awkward stage. And then you kind of linger in the darkness for a while until you finally reach that eureka moment, that eureka brushstroke where things start to fit. And we'll get there. No need to rush it. A little bit of alizarin crimson permanent. I'm so used to saying alizarin permanent. So this again, this is Winsor & Newton's alizarin crimson permanent. Or is it permanent alizarin crimson? I don't know. It's the Winsor & Newton permanent, okay? And just a little shape there, a little halftone for where the nose may fit. A little bit more light over here. And so at this stage in the painting, you know, I think that I've said what I wanted to say in terms of the large, you know, simplistic flesh tone combinations. I've now explained all of these flesh tone mixtures to you. And now at this point, it's really going to be the time to get out smaller brushes and start to pick and choose areas in the face to add further refinement. But you know, I think that's going to be tomorrow's video, just because I don't want this video to get too long. That being said, I really hope that today's video helps you out. I wish you the best in all of your artwork, and as always, I really want to bring the experience of creating these paintings to you as often as possible. Always enjoy your painting. I wish you the best, and I keep saying that. Sorry, I keep saying that. I really do. I really am grateful for all of you that are watching my my painting videos. That being said, I really do hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll be back again very soon.